I'm Andrew Doyle. I'm here at Plantation House on the island of Saint Helena to meet the world's oldest living land animal. His name is Jonathan. He's a tortoise. He's 191 years old. Let's go meet him. Hello, Joe.
Hi.
This is Jonathan. Was I right? He's 191. Did I get that right?
Well, we say 192 now.
Oh, do we?
We don't know, of course, exactly when he hatched, but we've got some nice documentation, which means he was landed in 1882 fully grown, which is about 50 years of age.
Right.
So for all we know, he could be 200 years old.
He's looking great on it.
It's really amazing. He's blind, he's lost his sense of smell, and these are meant to have a good sense of smell. But his hearing is fantastic. He's blind with cataracts, that's all.
Right.
He's still eating very well, as you can see.
Yeah, he's hungry.
His carrots.
So my understanding is Jonathan recently met the Duke of Edinburgh.
Yes.
But he also met Queen Elizabeth and he met George VI.
I believe so, yes. I wasn't around, but he was.
Yeah.
The most extraordinary thing about him, I think, is every animal or insect that crawls on the surface of the earth was born after him, including us. It's remarkable when you think of it like that.
It's amazing.
And he's approaching his 3rd century. When you think of it like that, it's just crazy.
How's his temperament?
He's lovely, actually. I mean, you can see that he loves his food. He's got a very sharp bite, but he wouldn't bite out of aggression.
Right.
He just loves his grub.
Hence the gloves.
Hence the gloves.
Yeah.
But also, we like to feed carrots. We were recommended to feed. Very good for vitamin A. You don't want the whole carrot going down. They're pretty indigestible. So we can, with gloves, we can be bolder because we don't mind being bitten and give him small bites instead of, half a carrot at a time.
So he's originally from the Seychelles, is that right?
Yes, so there's two main groups or cohorts of giant tortoises. As you know, the Galapagos tortoises, they can be a lot bigger, actually, up to 400 kilos. That's more or less 900 pounds. And then the Indian Ocean giant tortoises. Now, the commonest tortoise in the world is the Aldabra, which the other ones are from the Aldabra Atoll, the 2nd largest atoll in the world. And there are 100,000 of them there on the atoll, because it's a conservation site, and probably another 100,000 roughly around the world. But we've established that he's a Seychelles giant tortoise, not an Aldabra, and they were considered extinct until relatively recently.
Really?
Yes. Well, as you probably know, tortoises were eaten by us. Mariners of old were stuck with salted pork and full of maggots and biscuits full of weevils. And tortoises were easy to herd. They don't have to be fed or watered for weeks on end, and they could be stacked in the hole, and they provided a source of fresh meat. And it was Darwin, as usual, who basically rescued them and said they would be extinct by the end of the 1800s if something wasn't done. So he rescued both the Aldabra Atoll in the Indian Ocean and also the Galapagos in that respect. And they were considered extinct, and then the Seychelles Nature Trust had this brilliant idea, because they knew that they were sort of given as diplomatic gifts around the world, or even bought for private collections, and maybe a Seychelles giant tortoise wasn't extinct at all. And when they researched collections around the world, they rediscovered or de-extincted 2 species, the Seychelles and the Arnold's giant tortoise, which is fantastic.
And how old is he expected to live? What's the life expectancy?
Well, it's a good question. So, they're believed to be quasi-immortal.
Okay.
And that's not just fantasy, it's a subject of a lot of very expensive research because they're resilient to cancer. They repair their genes better than we do, which is how we age. We start damaging our genes, and then we develop cancers and metabolic diseases. They tend to wear out, and when I came, he was wearing out. His cataracts meant he couldn't graze properly, which meant he got nutritional deficiencies, which meant that his beak, we call it a beak here, went blunt, and he was getting thinner and thinner, and I thought he was going to die. But from 2010, we started to hand feed him just to boost his calories. Not of course, clocking the fact that what he really needed as well was the minerals, vitamins, and trace elements. And he rejuvenated.
Right.
Superpower. So not only was he de-extincted, and he's rejuvenated, he has superpowers.
So he's a supernatural being,
He is,
effectively.
absolutely.
So, Joe, how can we be sure about his history? Is there any documentation about him, anything that we know for sure in terms of when he arrived, how old he was when he arrived, that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, fortunately, Governor Gray Wilson in about 1896 wrote a letter to a captain who was here inquiring about Jonathan, saying he was landed in 1882 fully grown. And if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have, the real basis for when he landed. And to give an approximate age.
Well, fully grown, what would that be?
Fully grown is about 50, and their life expectancy is about 150 in the best circumstances. So we're doing really well with him.
Yeah.
So we tried to be very fair by just calling that 50 years of age, but he could have been 70, could have been 80. He might have reached 200 years of age already. It's 3rd century.
We just don't know.
We don't know. But thank goodness for that document that we've got. And furthermore, rather nicely, there is a lovely black and white photograph of him from the late 1800s with some saints and a colonial police officer, which was originally called a picture of him with Boer prisoners of war. When I saw the picture, though, I knew they were saints. They could see them.
And by saints, you mean locals? People from Saint Helena.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, islanders. And funny enough, with certain publicity, this very old lady, very bright, sharp old lady came forward called Rosemary Rees, and she had the very same photograph from the photographic studio from her grandfather's collection, who used to be a doctor on the ships that called in. And on the back, can you believe it? It said, "Good types of saints, islanders, at Plantation House," and that confirmed they weren't Boer prisoners of war, because the Boers were here in about 1900, 1901. And further went on to give the dimensions of the tortoise.
Oh, brilliant.
Can you believe it? And his dimensions, if anything, are slightly smaller than they measured then, but I think they measured very roughly in a circle around like this.
But it confirmed that he was an adult
absolutely
in that year.
You know, if his dimensions were bigger now, he's grown since then, but actually they were slightly smaller, so it was just their inaccuracy. But what a gift was that?
Yeah, it's almost like she knew.
Yes, exactly. yeah, it was quite extraordinary. We're very proud of him. He's a very special chap. He's a very important zoological specimen.